Welcome to Breaking Barriers with R&D, your direct line to Randy Dowdy and David Hula, here to help fellow farmers unlock the potential in their fields. Are you looking to implement best practices that maximize ROI? You've come to the right place. Real value, real yield, real ROI. Breaking Barriers with R&D starts now. Breaking Barriers is brought to you by Golden Harvest. At Golden Harvest, the bag is just the start. We combine trusted local agronomic expertise with data-driven innovations like the Golden Harvest Experience, GHX, to deliver tailored solutions built for your acres. To learn more, visit goldenharvestseeds.com.
Well, welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. And like I say, I guess I'm the D side on this R&D. And Dowdy, it is always my pleasure to chat with you. But one thing I can say today, for sure, where I'm at, it is colder than where you are.
That is a fact. It's 58 degrees and the sun's shining, but it was 28 this morning. So we warm up during the day. I'm in Georgia, and we warm up in the day most times. But it was a little brisk yesterday. The wind was blowing pretty good. I think the high was in the 40s, and it was cool for sure. But compared to Michigan, where I was this past weekend, it was an actual of 5 with a real feel of a -9 to -11. So
Mm.
I realized that I've got insulation, natural insulation, but I didn't quite have enough. It was still cold.
I understand. Well, on Sunday, I flew into Fargo, and I could tell you when I stepped off that plane and got on that jet bridge, something hit my body that it's not usual and customary to feeling. And so, Dowdy, I was, being in Fargo this week so far, we had a good total acre end of the year meeting with the growers here in Fargo. Had a big crowd. It included those from North Dakota and South Dakota, and a lot of good discussion. And we even talked about wheat. But one of the things that we did talk about, which I think is key, and it's imperative with most growers, we've just come off a year of, uncertainty. There were some struggles with farming in 25, but during these end of the year meetings we've been talking about things that we know pay, and that's where growers need to be focusing, their dollars. And that group we had in Fargo, a lot of good questions, Dowdy. And I didn't realize that camp's been in existence for 7, 8 years. So it wasn't your original camp, but it was one of those that came shortly thereafter.
Yeah, we had initially Nebraska was the first one, and then at Aurora Co-op, and then the very next year we got Ohio, South Dakota, and Illinois, and then right after that, we picked up Iowa and North Dakota and the different camps. So part of that meeting you were just at was South Dakota, North Dakota combined, I think. So that's
Yep.
part of where that original group started. The Terry Wellmans, all that group, Thomas Worm. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, and they're still hungry for information. So they were kind of disappointed that I was the one presenting this week. They were looking for the man, so they had the B team this go round. And I think we had a good conversation. We ended up talking about wheat too before it was all said and done. So
Yeah, I hear you. Well, David, there's some good growers up there for sure. And as you say, the number one focus everybody's discussing this year or this time of year is, you know, numbers. There's some promise of a little bit of money coming from USDA. Nobody wants to have to make ends meet by having to receive those benefits. I don't think anybody's going to tell them, "Hey, just ship mine to somebody else," but or ACH, just lose my account number. I don't think that's going to happen. But um, it's been some head scratching, tough times. Some people trying to figure out how to service debt. Some people making decision on ground if they're going to farm it again. Just simply, marginally productive ground. Is it worth taking the risk? Distance just to try to reduce cost. We've heard a lot of different conversations and discussions about strategy for 26, and thankfully we've had a little bit of reprieve on the markets, and I guess some of it's come from demand, but politics are playing a role in all of this. But end of the day, something's got to fundamentally change, David. There's no doubt about it. I know part of it. I was asked on Chip Flory's show this past week about, you know, the. I was asked about the regenerative ag
Hmm.
part of it, the $700 million for regenerative ag. And then I was asked about my thoughts on pulling back some of the emissions so farmers could get back to being able to operate some of the equipment and work on some of the equipment without the added cost associated with the changes that's been going on for 15 years now, or probably 18 years. I guess it really started in the Obama administration. So, um,
Okay.
so you know, changes needs to come. I hope Secretary Rollins and Trump are avid listeners of ours. I hope they're listening to us and they'll give us more of their ear. Maybe me or you get a phone call and we can go sit down and give some of our ideas of what we need to do to get for farmers to be viable again.
Yeah. Well, I found myself a couple of weeks ago, and this will be another whole podcast one day. I was in South America with Alex Harrell, and Alex was giving a presentation, and the growers asked Alex, "What could you do to make more money on soybeans at your farm?" And he didn't give any trade secrets away, because the last thing we want to do is see a lot of production more in South America or Brazil. And I heard him, and it was just I just jumped up on stage, Dowdy. I said, I got to say something. And I asked the audience through an interpreter, I said, all right, if Alex told y'all to do something, would y'all do it? And they intentively, after the interpreter said it all, they're like, oh, yeah, we'll do it. I said, Alex, tell them to spray and kill all their soybeans. That'll make more money on your farm. And then you just waited a minute, and I think the interpreter just couldn't believe that was something I would say, and then they all eventually laughed. So it was just, hey, that's one thing we can do, but it is such a global environment now. So it's not just things that we do here in the States. But that whole South American thing, that'll be another podcast one day. But Dowdy, Syngenta's been a sponsor for Breaking Barriers for the conception. And, we have a repeat guest. We got Matt Doltz out here he's going to come on. And then we got uh, Ryan Dunsbergen and with Golden Harvest and in the soybean production of it. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. So let's bring them on because we want to talk about Golden Harvest beans and corn.
A season is full of numbers. 21 days scouting fields, 168 hours in the cab, 540 cups of coffee consumed. At Golden Harvest, we know your most important number doesn't just happen. Every result is built by putting in the work and making the right calls with a partner who knows your acres. See how it all adds up beyond the bushels at goldenharvestseeds.com/harvest.
With corn rootworm costing farmers up to $1 billion a year, you need the right strategy. Introducing Durastack trait technology, featuring 3 powerful modes of action to strike corn rootworm at full force, outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch their every move with the industry's first triple BT protein stack built for corn rootworm control. Take back your yield potential. Make your move at Durastack.com. Available for the 2027 season.
David, before you say anything else, I want to hear you say that one more time. Matt and Ryan, make sure y'all listen to this. Could you say that one more time? We want to talk about some Golden Harvest beans and corn. I don't know that I've ever heard that come out of his mouth quite like that.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think I've clearly been branded now. So here I'm talking about another brand, Matt and Ryan, and this is going to be exciting. We have looked. I have never looked at Golden Harvest. Now I've seen Golden Harvest. Actually, some of our total acre trial data that we've been looking at with end of the year growers has Golden Harvest up there on the map, kind of talking about fungicides on corn and stuff. And so now I'm putting a name with a brand, and I'm excited to hear what y'all got going on. Because earlier, Matt, when we were talking about traits on corn, and some of the above ground, below ground stuff y'all had going on. But now kind of want to talk about the genetics themselves in reference to what you saw. 25 was a tough year in some environments. You get Ryan, you're somewhere from the Iowa area, if I recall you saying, and y'all dealt with some southern rust. That's not usual and customary. So there were some challenges, and then tar spot, showed its ugly head in some environments, and there were other traits that Dowdy and I were seeing during the Pro Farmer Crop Tour. So I'm not sure which one wants to kick it off, but just talk a little bit about what y'all got going on right now in reference to what farmers are experiencing.
Well, thanks, David. A lot of challenges out there right now. You've seen them. You're hearing about them as well. We hear about weather variability. We hear, early season wet weather to late season drought conditions all over the board. We're also hearing about evolving pest populations. We've talked before on a previous podcast, particularly about corn rootworm and disease pressure. And, finally, growers are just really concerned about their opportunity for maximizing ROI given the current market dynamics. So we think about the 2026 class of Golden Harvest brand corn products. They were specifically developed with these challenges in mind. We've strengthened our drought tolerance package across the lineup, particularly in key stress environments, and things like fusarium crown rot tolerance. We've got some nice strength in the class there. Well, proud to offer a product portfolio that features advanced trait packages, including things like Durastack for protection against corn rootworm, one of the most devastating pests in corn. And when you roll that all up and you think about the overall direction of the brand and the portfolio, we're excited about Golden Harvest brand corn bringing forward focus on yield stability while maintaining that defensive trait mindset. We know that farmers need hybrids that perform consistently across all those different types of environments, whether you're extremely cold up there in North Dakota, David, or you're further south down in Georgia today. We know that those are really important here to keep in mind.
What you hit something when you first started off, Matt, that I think if I'm looking at 26, it's kind of a focus that I'm going to be, because during their crop tours, we do not just with the Pro Farmer Crop Tour, but with the total acre events, we're walking fields and splitting stalks, whether it's early young seedling plants all the way till we're, in that 2,000 plus GDU mark. And one of the things that we've been noticing is that fusarium crown rot. And, hearing you say that y'all are making some strides towards that, we oftentimes think about either biologicals or fungicidal control. Are you suggesting that outside of the chemistry, y'all might be looking at something in the genetic side of it, or are you just stacking more of the crop protection side of it on that control?
No, we're certainly looking at the genetic side and bringing forward products where we've seen challenges with fusarium, making sure they bring forward good tolerance to fusarium crown rot. We want to keep those plants standing and being productive all season long. So it's really near and dear to us, and something we've looked at, especially moving into this coming year.
Yeah, well, that's exciting because for growers, it's a lot of times if a grower's not looking for it, they don't know that they had a problem. And then once you identify it and see it, then they say, okay, now we got to start paying attention to it. And if they don't have the corn go over, then it's not nearly as critical. But we getting it off to that foundation, and Dowdy has been the one that kind of helped even me push that. Is you get that crop up uniformly and get everything up together, you just have such a better chance. And that's one of the boxes that I've learned to check, through Dowdy's advice there. So Ryan, when you think about it,
yes, sir.
You spend, I guess you're part of the soybean production side. And, we were talking before, we were talking about, budgets and all, and it seems like corn is king. It doesn't matter what. Soybeans take a back step, but most growers, when they think about cost of production and reducing those costs of production, they start thinking about soybeans because, corn takes more dollars to produce and soybeans. But yet when you get in the Midwest, corn is clearly king. So what's going on
Sure.
in 26 for Golden Harvest in reference to beans? It's, I guess, try to make it sexy. So they're going to want to continue to try to deal with some soybean production.
Yeah, I hear you there. So when I think about 2026, I always think about what's going on right now. So in the world of soybeans, we got soybean cyst nematode that we need to keep our eye on, or in the back of our head, or a front of mind, really. It's a $1.5 billion annual pest in soybeans. So always thinking through that. We launched several Peking products. We've got a total of 8 products with Peking sorts of resistance looking forward to 2026. So, that's always top of mind there. And then from there, moving on to the other pests in soybeans, you've got your standard diseases. You've got your sudden death. That is almost always a concern. You've got your white mold, specifically up north. You've got your Phytophthora in these heavier, wet soils. We can't lose sight of that. And now we're starting to see, I hesitate to call them emerging diseases, but diseases that are becoming more and more of a concern. We've got red crown rot specifically showing up pretty crazy in the state of Illinois. We've got stem canker that's continuing to show up more and more. We've got charcoal root rot that continues to show up more and more. And we're, that's that right there. Those last two, that combination seems to be the combination I'm getting more and more calls on is when that stem canker hits early to mid season, and then you get a dry August like we've had the past 2 years, 3 years in a row, and then your charcoal root rot comes in kind of on the backside of that stem canker. That's a bad day. And so we're continuing in Golden Harvest to continue to evaluate, monitor, look at those diseases specifically in our varieties that we launch into the industry.
Ryan, I've got a question. Is there any emphasis in the future for root knot? I know everybody likes to talk about soybean cyst nematodes, but is there any direction on root knot nematodes? I know in the Delta and definitely in the Southeast, it is a prevalent problem. And a lot of people have misidentified sudden death when they really have nematode issues because the symptomology almost looks exactly the same. And I always tell growers all the time, when you think you got sudden death in the summertime, just go out and pull a soil sample and let's just rule out that it's not a nematode issue. But everybody focuses on soybean cyst because it's so widespread. I know the company's trying to when they develop traits or they develop hybrids or varieties, they try to get it across as many acres as possible. But is there any way possible that a guy like me could put a bug in your ear and say, hey, not only soybean cyst, but let's touch root knot as well?
You bet. As far as root knot nematode is concerned, first of all, we're continuing to look at varieties. We do work with University Arkansas. We send them several of our varieties to help us out with root knot nematode identification tolerance. And so, we do some of that in-house. And then when we launch a new product into our portfolio, we do additional testing specifically on our varieties' tolerance to root knot nematode. So there is some direction there. The other thing I would throw in here would be from a chemistry side of things. Victrado was recently approved on the federal label. So we've got Victrado out there, and Victrado is going to be an excellent source of chemistry to be able to combat any type of nematode issues, whether it's soybean cyst nematode or root knot nematode. Victrado has very good efficacy on nematodes.
And that is in furrow at planting?
That is a seed treatment.
Actually, a seed treatment.
So
I hope it's more effective than some of the other seed treatments out there. We just hadn't had a lot of luck with the seed treatments. I know in peanuts we've played with some nematicides in the furrow that are liquid. That's done fairly good job, but soybeans is still we've had some difficulty trying to control those. Varietal resistance has been the best win, but you're telling me it's the seed treatment.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'll say on all of the above. Seed treatment isn't going to take a variety that's really poor on anything and turn it into a silver bullet. So seed treatment will not be a silver bullet. It's meant to definitely help in situations that you're specifically targeting. Yeah, starting with great base genetics is a good starting point, and then accentuating that with seed treatment on top of that is always a great idea.
Well, I know a guy that's planning on trying to put some beans in the southeast this year, and if you know a salesman that can call on me in the southeast, you might want to get them to call me, because if we ring the bell, I'm sure you're gonna want me to talk about. Is it Ventrado? Is that the name? Am I saying that correctly?
Victorado, you bet. Yep.
Victorado. So it would be good to have something on the farm and let me vet it, and let's talk about it and see how well it works, because unfortunately we got a pretty sandy soil, and root knot nematodes is just it's something you have to take into consideration. I remember calling David several years ago. He's in the seed business, and I told him, I said, David, I want to try some of your varieties. Well, what are you looking for? I said, well, I need groups, but more importantly, I need groups that are root knot resistant. And he says, oh, that narrows it down a lot. So we need some help in the southeast and the mid-south and the delta for sure. So maybe to get on some of these companies' radar. But thanks for at least telling me about the Victorado. Is that new? Is that brand new? Has it been out a while? David, have you heard of that before?
Other than the name, we haven't experimented with it, tried, and I thought I heard Ryan say it just got registered. Is that not correct?
That is correct. We just got registration on it. Shoot, I don't know. I want to say 4 weeks ago is what I want to say. 6 weeks ago, somewhere in there. So
well, I know I threw you a curveball, and I'm kind of sometimes notorious for that. I know we want to talk about certain things, but when something hits the old brain, it can't come off the tongue fast enough. So
Yeah.
I understand, not a problem.
And I guarantee you, the guys in the Delta, if they're paying attention, I guarantee you're going to get their attention, because root knot nematode is our nemesis quite often in the South, for sure, our sandy grounds.
Yeah, it's a problem in the Mid-Atlantic as well. But Ryan, I'm going to tell you, be careful, because there goes your marketing dollars if you're dealing with Dowdy. So
yeah, exactly. You know what we're going to have to do? We're just going to have to borrow from corn and go out the side of soybeans. So I think we can get a little bit from corn on this.
Let's make sure Dowdy stays focused on soybeans and doesn't gravitate towards focusing on corn. So I get worried when he thinks about corn.
He loses so much sleep over it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, let's spin it back to a little bit of corn. Hey, Matt, when you think about 25 and just what the growers went through, what I'm looking at, let's say we're looking at golden harvest. Where can we use that technology to help us ROI? Because y'all are dealing with genetics. Southern rust is not something that's probably going to be an ongoing problem in the Midwest. It happened, it's happened the last couple of years. Let's hope it's not a repeating problem. But just in general, dollars that growers are having to generate, where have y'all filled some voids, either with your technologies? You talked about the traits that y'all have been introducing. Let's think about corn from 25 to 26, where you've probably made some improvements and maybe some data to kind of support it, or where they can get some data.
Sure. Yeah, we would welcome the opportunity to think about the challenges that farmers had here. Durastack is certainly one technology to help manage corn rootworm, one of the most devastating pests that will be a part of the Golden Harvest brand corn lineup going forward. Farmers will be able to start looking at those products in local trials starting this next spring, and then watch them all growing season long, with the opportunity to take a look at them on their farm, here in the coming years. So looking forward to that. From a corn perspective, we've got several new genetic chassis and packages that we're excited to launch here. But there's a lot of products out there. They're all standout products, but really placement is critical for any hybrid out there. So if I had to narrow it down to talk about a couple here, I'd mentioned G99 M49 AA brand, a new launch for us here this last season that is performing exceptionally well. Kind of built for handling some of those tough conditions, still showing some excellent yield potential for top end performance. handling just that, the tougher environments, and it carried a 60+% win ratio approximately throughout the season. So really great performance on that new 99 RM product. And then on the fuller season side, looking at G13 M31 AA, another product that we want to talk about, 113 RM again, bringing that next level of yield potential for the Golden Harvest brand corn portfolio. And like you mentioned, southern rust not an issue every single year, but extremely strong natural tolerance to southern rust, which helped its performance here this season and kind of helped mitigate some of the risk that we saw out there. So great new genetics, new by new genetics we're bringing forward here in a Golden Harvest brand bag, helping farmers maximize that yield potential.
Real quick, Matt, David mentioned something about on the end of year meetings. We've got some slides where we're looking at hybrid by fungicide performance. And we're doing it across companies and things like that. Have y'all done anything like that, Matt, to where you see where certain hybrids seem to respond to fungicides in a different way than other hybrids do, or by company, or by just relative maturity? Have y'all ever done that work before? Because this is kind of a new way of looking at it. We talk about plant health and leaf architecture and, above ground and below ground architecture. There's a lot of catchphrases and things that David and I consider, shuck coverage, everything. But do y'all have any work going on? I mean, because that's what everybody's focused on right now is, man, will we ever see southern rust like we saw it this year? And now tar spot's here to stay. What are we going to do? Have y'all done that work with your fungicides or with your hybrids to see if there's any kind of fungicidal response curve by hybrid or by company?
Yeah, short answer to your question, Randy. Great question. We do extensive research there through our Golden Harvest Agronomy Research Program. So, in addition to work pre-commercial or before we would ever put a product or a hybrid into a Golden Harvest brand bag, we do extensive step trialing. So that's our strategic testing for effective product placement. So it's our pre-commercial testing platform, bringing 2 years of testing, again, before that product hits the market. And again, we want to make sure we understand the product before it would ever be out on a farmer's field. So we do that first and foremost. And then again, we do, all the fungicide ratings. So every single Golden Harvest brand product that we would sell would have a fungicide response rating or response to. And then we would, structure or categorize the leaves. We would categorize the roots, the stalks. We would have full set of ratings here for every corn product we sell in the lineup. And, most of all the major diseases here that we would run into, including southern rust, tar spot, etc. So all that would be a part of the Golden Harvest portfolio package of products that we would offer.
Good deal. Well, Matt, David probably knows where I'm going next, but if he's thinking about it, you're doing a lot of testing. I think I asked this question the first time we met, but if I didn't, I'm going to ask it this time. And maybe you've got an answer, or you can put it in the testing. We've all done strip trials. We've all done variety plots. We've had different companies' version of what you just talked about, step trials or impact plots. We've done a lot of different things to see hybrids before they hit the market. And one of the things that I think that needs to happen, especially when we don't understand why meteorologists can't do a better job of predicting forecasts any better than what they do. We need emergence scores based off of GDUs to emergence by planting depth. We need that. We being the farmers need that, not total acre, not Randy and David. Farmers need that. It'd be great to have saturated cold germ scores. It'd be great to have a paracarp score. It'd be great to understand those pieces of it, but a lot of people give vigor scores, but most of that is obviously after the plant's up, V2, V3, etc. If we got a forecast and we want a certain amount of GDUs before emergence occurs, or a certain amount of GDUs before cold weather occurs, or, that first drink of water not being cold, and we need a certain amount of GDUs in so many days, and we feel like we got a short window, not all hybrids are created equal. Some take 125 GDUs to emerge. Some take 75 GDUs to emerge. I would love to see your hybrids with an average 2-inch planting depth for you to tell us how many GDUs with an average planting depth of 2 inches or a planting depth of 2 inches, how many GDUs does it take to come out of the ground when it spikes? And that to me is true vigor. And we understand a lot of seed energies burn up in the ground, but let's be a trend setter. And I'd like to see Syngenta, somebody take this bull by the horn and just give the farmer more tools to make decisions about which hybrids to plant and when to plant them. Is that something you think that the Golden Harvest or, you guys, Syngenta, would get behind? It's a different way of thinking, right? So.
Yeah, Randy, I appreciate the thoughts and conversation. I think we're always open to what's going to be an opportunity for the farmer to grow more yield and understand their crop better throughout the season. So always appreciate the thoughts. And yes, is the short answer. We would be open to things like that. I would tell you that we did incorporate a seed vigor test score here within the last few seasons here that would be proprietary to us. Again, trying to look or stimulate imbibitional chilling, following some of that seedling growth period. So trying to demonstrate the separation of seed at lower vigor levels versus upper vigor levels to try to help understand what that customer risk level is for planting into some of those types of soils and conditions. So that's a test that we're utilizing currently that's just been incorporated within the last couple of years to understand vigor and hopefully put the best seed out there in a Golden Harvest brand bag for our customers.
David, do you think you think there's benefits, David, if they went down the path of being able to tell farmers that?
Yes, it is.
You're the corn king. You're the corn king, David.
So. I wish Miss Sandy would understand that first and foremost, but yeah, I mean, it just becomes another information is good. More information is better, and it can become a tool in positioning and placing hybrids based on forecasts. And we know weathermen are not always accurate, unfortunately. But if we can see a trend and then we can put the right hybrid in that environment, that's just going to be a win, as Matt would know. So Dowdy's been talking about corn. So Ryan, I guess we're going to shift it to soybeans because where everybody wants to go. They want to talk about corn. That's where the dollars are. But as a grower, getting ready to plan for 26, this is the end of the year. This is one of the toughest times of year for me, both corn and soybeans, because we're trying to figure out what varieties we're going to be planting, whether it's a corn hybrid, what traits, what maturity. Now, for me, in reference to soybeans, I'm in the seed business. So we try to figure out what varieties we're selling or what varieties we're going to be growing for contract. But for the average grower, Ryan, what decisions does he need to be looking at in reference to the Golden Harvest brand soybeans for 26?
Yeah, I think as far as that's concerned, we've talked a lot about that already, just in farm economy, and that's the thing to keep in mind is what is that going to look like? What is the ROI? And so thinking through that, planning through that, and I always encourage guys to think through the if-then statements. So what I mean by that is there's been kind of an evolution, so to speak, the past several years. Guys are planting their soybeans earlier and earlier in the season. Well, when you do that, I really want to encourage guys to think through what's that going to mean on the backside. So what does that mean? What will that result in? So when you plant your soybeans out there earlier, you're going to need to think about better disease protection. You're going to need to think about soybean seed treatments. We've kind of already talked about the Victrado thing. You've got a variety of good soybean seed treatments out there, whether it's Cruiser Max Apex, added with Saltro or Victrado there. But then you need to think through the fertilizer thing. And I get it. A lot of people have a tendency to fertilize for corn and maybe skimp a little bit on the beans. But thinking about how you're going to get your P and K out there, long distance throughout the season to make sure those products are available late season during seed fill, which is when it becomes the most important. And then definitely thinking through the chemistry side of things. If a person has let's say they've got 50% of their soybeans planted in the middle of April, and the other half of their soybeans are planted middle to end of May, you now are going to be asking your chemistries to keep your weeds out or down an extra 4 to 6 weeks out of the growing season, compared between the two. And so thinking through that as well. So those are just some examples there of things that guys would encourage to be thinking through. Definitely spending time thinking, okay, if I do this in my soybeans, then what? Then what's going to happen because of that? Some things that I need to think through and be prepared to combat out there in my soybean fields.
Ryan, you talk about if and when and what to do next. I think probably one of the things that we spend a lot of time with the growers, or at least, and I know Dowdy has as well at these end of the year meetings, guys need to know what a budget is. What are they, where are they? And what are they willing to do? And for me, for like the corn side of it, you need to budget and save a late fungicide spray. If you get to so far, then and you don't finish it, we just missed out. But back to the bean side,
Yeah.
Ryan, I know the East Coast, we were dry. There was a dry period. Seed size is small. If I were a farmer long time ago, you were buying beans by the bushel, and I would be thrilled to death because we would cover a lot of acres because we're seeing their traditional 2,600. We're seeing 29, 31, 3,200 seed count on the beans. And I'm not so worried about that as long as we got good germ and good quality. But for a lot of growers that try to singulate, when we get into smaller beans, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge with some of the technologies or some of the plant equipment. I know it's a broad spectrum because beans are produced in the West, the Midwest, the South, the Delta. Just in general, has quality been a concern? You're getting scores. We're cleaning seed things. Even though the seed's small, we've been very pleased with this quality.
Right. Yeah. In general, we've been relatively pleased with quality. When we compare this year to last year, I'll be the first to admit our soybean seed size is smaller. The better is, versus compared to last year is that our moistures were a little bit dry on some of our soybean seed for as we look to 2026, but we're not near as dry on our soybean seed. So last year we had roughly 2/3 of our soybean seed supply was single digit moistures. And that is falling more in line to our quote unquote average, where it's anywhere from a third to 40% of our soybean seed is coming in on those single digit moistures. So that is helping. But you're exactly right. We are seeing definitely quite a bit smaller seed size this year. We do think it will impact supply in some instances. We're not going to run out of soybean seed, but what I tell everybody is yeah, we're not going to run out, but we might run out of your favorite variety. So yeah, we've got our quote unquote habitual offenders, as in our soybean seed that typically throws a little bit smaller seed, is throwing smaller seed again this year. But then at the same time, we've been surprised a little bit. We've got a couple of varieties that typically are not smaller seed size, coming in smaller seed size this year. So, there are some batches of ours that are coming in, 3,800, 4,000 seeds per pound. We're basically going to be getting rid of that as time goes on. So we don't see a whole lot of that moving out in the countryside. But these are things that our our product and supply team is continuing to work through, monitor. Definitely something to keep in mind. And what I always tell guys is, when it comes to sourcing those soybeans, we don't kick the can down the curb, so to speak. What I mean by that is we don't go get the worst of the worst and condition that and put that into a soybean bag. We go after the best of the best. And so when it comes to delivery, if people are kind of dragging their feet on taking delivery, this is another year where that probably won't play out well in the long run, because as time goes on and we get closer to in season, it'll be the really small soybean seed that's left in the bins. It'll be the more average quality germ testing that will be left in the bins that ultimately we condition. So possession is 9/10 of the law in the world of soybeans, and so really encourage people to take delivery. So
what I'm hearing you say is hurry up, decide what golden harvest variety you want, order it, buy it, get it delivered, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Anything
Right.
new and exciting in the soybean market trait wise that y'all are excited about or kind of looking at? Because we've gone through the enlist, we've gone through the dicamba, the stacked and multiple stacked, and before long y'all are going to be like everybody else, have a 5-way stack. But I know about the struggles that we as growers struggle with, insects and stuff. Is there y'all got anything exciting that you're looking for? And this wasn't one of the questions y'all said we could ask, so I'm just asking.
I know. So take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt. My legal department might have a problem with what I'm about to say. No, I'm just kidding.
Hear it first on breaking barriers.
That's right.
That's right. That is correct. So breaking barriers with R&D. If you say my name really fast, Ryan D, breaking barriers with Ryan, kind of sounds like the same thing there. But anyhow, both short term and long term. So as far as the short term, E3 by FG72 is a new trait that we're going to be coming out with. I'm going to say 2029 is kind of our target year for that. So it's basically it's the E3 trait that's along with the FG72 that's tacked onto that as well. So it's kind of a dual launch, so to speak, that's being marketed both by us and MS Technologies LLC. So we're pretty excited about that in the short term. And then long term, Syngenta, we actually have in targeting, say, mid 2030s, kind of that time frame. We're looking at launching our own proprietary trait in mid 2030s, and we're really excited about that. So it carries some efficacies to some tolerances to some chemistries, to our PPO chemistries, as well as some meso chemistries, and we are really excited about that simply from the amount of tolerance that trait brings to the platform. So really going to be able to use higher rates of chemistries on top of that trait. And so we're excited to see what comes out of that. But, like I said, that's mid 2030s when that proprietary trait will be on the market. But in the more near term, we're looking at E3 by FG72.
So, when you start talking 2030s, several years ago, it's like, oh my gosh, but that's not so far away, Ryan.
It's not. Time flies when you're having fun. That's for sure. It's definitely getting closer. So
well, we about to have little man get in the truck, so he does not know I'm on a podcast. So if he gets in here and he's rambunctious, y'all just have to overlook him for a second. Hey, I do want to ask this question to Matt and Ryan. If there's anything that you can say that a grower that you don't have to worry about, and I'm not going to ask you to choose a variety or a hybrid relative maturity or any of those things, but if there's anything that a farmer probably should incorporate out of your technology, now's your time to put it out there. That you just don't have to worry about a phone call. Hey, we didn't make any money, or this, I spent the money on this and it didn't pay. What are the things? What would be something that you would say would be the number one thing that a farmer should try?
From a corn perspective, I certainly think any farmer out there should be taking a look at Viptera, leading for broadleaf control in the marketplace here, offering control against corn earworm, western bean cutworm. It is the leader in the marketplace. And we've got the genetics in our Golden Harvest brand to go right alongside that trait. So that is a no-brainer. So that'd be the near term. And then looking forward here, just a Durastack combination here, Durastack, Viptera, stacking those technologies together and bringing forward next level of corn rootworm control with that Durastack trait technology. We're super excited about that. We will be the only other option or alternative in the market versus everything else that's out there today. So why keep doing the same thing if you're struggling with corn rootworm control? Why not try something different here to rotate modes of action, utilize some different technology in there and some proven BT proteins offered through Golden Harvest, Syngenta, and our Durastack trait technology. So those would be the two, maybe again, right near term today and what's coming here this next season that I certainly couldn't miss on taking a look at.
Well, that's about as good advice you can get, because if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, what does Dowdy say? That's insanity. So stepping outside the box, we've seen the Viptera trait work quite well in their environment because of corn earworm. So Ryan, to go along with what Dowdy said, what about soybeans? The one thing that you can say that you're not going to have to worry about the farmer calling back.
Yep, you bet. I'm gonna go back to the soybean cyst nematode story there, and the reason I want to bring that up is because I think it's going to be very, very important to continue to rotate sources of resistance. So in some areas, we are actually starting to see some rate shift, some level of resistance to the peaking source of resistance, and that's a bad day. So when it comes to soybean cyst nematodes, peaking source of resistance is great, and it cannot be your only bullet in the gun, so to speak. It or your tool in the toolbox. That's probably a better PC phrase there. It can't be your only tool in the toolbox. You've got to be able to rotate to corn. You've got to be able to rotate the PI 88788 source of resistance in there as well. So don't just simply rely on peaking source of resistance only for some of those tough soybean cyst nematode acres.
Well, all this is great, but the farmers got to find information. So, if they're watching the podcast, which we know we're continually to generate more viewers, what's the best way for a grower to try to gather information from y'all?
Since corn is king, David, I'll go first and then let Ryan jump in. But we'd sure invite any listeners out there to visit goldenharvestseeds.com to learn more about specific products and hybrids we have out there. We did talk about some new trait technology as well today, so we'd encourage folks to visit Durastack, Durastack.com to learn more about our Syngenta trait portfolio as well through the Golden Harvest brand.
Yeah, hey, very similar story for me. Go ahead and talk to your local sales rep or your local agronomist within Golden Harvest. They will be able to help you out if you are unaware or unfamiliar with who that is. Absolutely. Head on over to www.goldenharvestseeds.com.
Well, it has been a pleasure. Now, all I can see is Randy ringing some high yield soybeans with some of the Golden Harvest brand beans in 2026. So, Ryan, you better make sure you get the right guy talking to Dowdy.
All right. I'll see what I can get done. You
appreciate that, David, because I was about to end with that. I was going to say, now get the NK, Garst, Golden Harvest. I've heard several different names over the years. Get somebody to call me, because we need to get some on some acres and see what we can do with them. It's always a pleasure visiting with you two guys, or three guys. David, you're the king for a reason. Just don't get too comfortable up there. Iron sharpens iron. I've been listening to you all these years. We're going to see what we can do in corn again, hopefully. So Well, the weather's got to go right. So I'm gonna be calling David and seeing how many tricks he'll share with me, fellas. Y'all think he's gonna try to keep something close to the vest, or you think he's gonna share it all?
He'll keep it close to the vest. David, I'll be watching the mail here. So depending on what we see in the mail here before the end of the year here, maybe we can get something worked out here for some of this additional information.
Right.
Well, fellas, I do appreciate y'all being part of the Breaking Barriers with R&D. And for those out there, we're on Farm Journal TV and any place you can find your podcast. Tune in and wait for the next episode. And Easton, how you doing? So y'all
Tell him, hey, buddy. Tell him, hey. Hey, King David. See there? He knew what to say.
All right. Yep. All right. Thank y'all very much.
Take care, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon for another new episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, all episodes are available on Farm Journal TV and anywhere podcasts are found.